So thank you to the organizers for having me here. And I have always started all my presentations with special acknowledgements to my teachers. The talk for today is systemic evaluation and uveitis. And we are going to have these learning points. There are 7 learning points, and we'll have at least one case for each learning point. The first one is unilateral recurrent non-granulomatous anterior uveitis. Now, the essential take-home point in this is that when we have a young gentleman, male or female, with a recurrent unilateral redness, pain, and photophobia of a particular duration, with recurrences which keep occurring, with or without hypopyon, and when there are fresh fine keratic precipitates, then the systemic evaluation should be in terms of requesting for an HLA-B27. The history that one should ask for is the history of lower backache with an early morning stiffness, and that when present is almost a clincher. The other organ systems that one need to evaluate include the skin, the oral cavity, the gastrointestinal system, and the genitourinary lesions. These patients, when treated with immunomodulators, especially when multi-organ systems are involved, do extremely well. The next subgroup is tuberculosis and the eye. And it is important for everyone to know the patterns of ocular tuberculosis. These include an ulcerated flictanular conjunctivitis, a sclerokeratitis with extension of inflammation into the cornea, a keratoconjunctivitis, and these would then lead to tongue-shaped ulcers, granulomatous anterior uveitis, where you will see these large mutton fat KPs, granulomatous intermediate uveitis, where they will be associated vitreous inflammation with and choroiditis. Now, having said that, the sign of granulomatous KPs is extremely important. And here is the case of a 26-year-old lady who presented to us with redness, pain, watering of 3 months duration, post-excision of pterygium. And this is the clinical picture when she presented to us, a necrotizing process post-pterygium excision. Herein, we saw large mutton fat KPs in the Ards triangle, and that raised the possibility of a granulomatous process being suspected. And hence, we asked for investigations. The Mantoux was very strongly positive, and just suggested of active pulmonary tuberculosis. And the patient was started on AKT with oral steroids, and after a tectonic intervention in terms of a scleral patch graft, the outcome was good. The next is cases of neuro-ophthalmology. When there is disc edema, which comes, it is extremely important to look at the vitreous and see, to look for vitreous cells. Like this patient, a 33-year-old lady who presented with disturbance of vision for 1 month. This is the fundus picture, severe disc edema, macular edema, and the presence of vitreous cells, which alerted us. We asked for investigations, and the Mantoux test was a blistered induration, and the HRCT had fibronodular lung opacities with necrotic cervical lymphadenopathy. The patient was started on AKT with steroids and did well with resolution of the macular edema, the disc edema, and the vitreous cells, and she got back her vision. There is another case here where we have a 46-year-old gentleman who was initially thought to be anterior ischemic optic neuropathy, bilateral, because he had raised homocysteine levels. But again, here the vitreous cells led us to further investigations. And in him, we had a raised ESR, serum ACE levels which are high, and a high resolution chest CT showing non-necrotic mediastinal and hilar lymphadenopathy with focal hepatic lesions suggestive of sarcoidosis. This patient was treated with oral steroids and azathioprine and did well to regain his vision. The next point I want to emphasize on is the presence of periarteritis. Most times in tuberculosis, we are talking of periphlebitis, but when there is periarteritis along with vitreous cells, one should think of things other than tuberculosis. This is a 45-year-old gentleman who presented to us with choroiditis, mild vitritis, treated elsewhere with methylprednisolone, not doing well. And if you see a close-up of the lesion, you will see that the patient has something like a branched retinal artery occlusion that's coming up. And that, along with the vitreous cells, made us think of syphilis. And indeed, in him, TPHA was positive. And this is a case of syphilitic BRA with optic neuritis. Since then, we have been looking at vitreous cells in all cases of periarteritis. And there is a patient, a 42-year-old gentleman with an unexplained uveitis, who was initially treated as toxoplasmosis, responded well, but then started relapsing. And that for vitreous biopsy. The vitreous biopsy, we saw a supranasal area of periarteritis. And from the experience of the previous case, we did a TPHA. A VDRL was initially done, which was negative. A TPHA was advised, which were a positive, and then the patient was put on a 2-week course of oral doxycycline, and this is the resolution which is seen in terms of resolution of the infiltrate. The next is a concept of a limited disease. It's important to understand this concept of limited disease. It is first described in literature in Wegener's granulomatosis, and it's important for us to know because at times there may be a single organ system involvement and even absence of ANCA being positivity. Like this patient, a 34-year-old lady who came with just a diffuse anterior scleritis, she had a positive RA factor and ANCA. And we lost time in terms of about 2 or 3 days. And then by that time, she had progressed to a scleral melt that happened at the limbus. She was immunosuppressed with intravenous cyclophosphamide and then taken up for a wound repair. Ultimately, along with the immunomodulation, she did well and regained her visual acuity, but gave us the lesson that there are going to be times when a single organ system may be involved and the disease may be limited, but needs as aggressive a treatment as one would do for a generalized disease. In pediatric uveitis, as Anup has been stressing, the eye may be completely quiet and one needs to look for non-granulomatous KPs, band-shaped mature cataracts. And these patients will not complain they are kids. As in this patient who has a granulomatous panuveitis, develops a hypopyon, but the eye remains quiet, has been on triple immunosuppression with prednisolone, methotrexate, and oral MMF. These type of cases, with our experience, we've realized that they are the difficult to treat Rao syndrome, which is juvenile sarcoidosis. And finally, the masquerades, one needs to be very careful in especially the old age. When you have choroidal lesions, always better to do a PET CT and then a vitreous biopsy if the PET CT doesn't lead to much. So coming to the last slide, we test for HLA-B27 when there is a unilateral non-randomatous uveitis with lower backache. We've learned the patterns of TB in the eye. We've understood the importance of looking at vitreous cells, especially if disc edema is present, even if it's a neuroophthalmic case. We've understood the importance of suspecting and looking for tuberculosis because it is easy to treat. We've understood the importance of the concept of a limited disease, regular eye examinations in case of JIA-related pediatric uveitis. And finally, we've understood that we need to suspect masquerades in the very old patients. With this, I would like to end the talk for today on systemic evaluation.